Thanks for joining the HomeMatters podcast with Eric and Gena Boggs, where they lead authentic, raw discussions about marriage, family life, kids, intimacy, and sex from a biblical perspective. Now here's your host, Eric and Gena Boggs.
There's Eric, and here is Gena.
Well, hello. Welcome to Home Matters.
Yep.
Glad you joined us today. And
We are glad you're here.
through the time that we're together that maybe you can pick up something to help your marriage or
No, man.
home life.
If we can just say a little something that'll make a difference in your life and
Sure
your
will.
marriage, your family, man, that's our desire. We just want you to have everything God has planned for you.
Yep.
Smiling awful big over there. You happy today?
I ate a honey bun just a few seconds ago.
What?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we're moving into holiday season. You know what that means? Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. You know what that means, don't you?
Honey buns?
All restraints of eating are off.
Oh, we need to listen to some podcasts personally ourselves.
I
Probably.
entertain myself, don't I, with that? I feel like I got honey bun on me. If I got honey bun on me.
I don't see any honey bun on you. I'm jealous.
We're
I need a
talking about,
snack.
we've been talking for the last several podcasts. Some of you out there thinking, man, are we ever going to talk about anything different? But
Well, the intentional marriage, that's really,
yes, in our kind of our core, you know, when it comes back to,
that's right.
you know, the way we've tried to live and lead through the years.
The years, yeah. This is podcast 24, and really it's just the second part of 23.
Yeah.
Yeah, one before that was a little bit different, but this
We think it's podcast 24.
it is podcast 24.
Could be
I'm not
28.
sure.
We're not sure. We can't
Lord.
count real well. So.
Speak for yourself over there.
Well, you're the one that came in and told me today that we were probably off on our numbers. And
I'm not sure.
it's only 27 or 25. What
We
number
don't
is
know.
it? 24?
We are glad that you are here no matter what
Yep.
number it is. Okay.
We
The
are.
number's not important. So intentional marriage, and what we started last time really was just throwing some things out there that would make your marriage move
Yeah.
towards that extraordinary. And the way you get to that extraordinary, we believe, is just by being intentional, doing some things.
Yeah, we use this little formula sometime of time plus intentional equals extraordinary.
Yeah.
And, or you can do time plus unintentional and it equals ordinary.
Yeah. Plain
So
old ordinary.
if you just, you're unintentional with the life and
That's right.
with marriage and leading your home, then more than likely you are getting ordinary. But if you're
And ordinary is
intentional,
not where you're supposed to live, right?
no.
No.
So we talked about embracing differences and expanded on
time.
that a little bit.
Talked about resisting change, or that we shouldn't resist. Shouldn't resist the change. And
So what's
this
next
time,
then?
okay, planning is necessary. All right. So if we don't want that ordinary status quo, just blah, boring
Yeah.
relationship, marriage, family, then here's something you can be intentional about
Yeah.
planning, okay?
Well,
Just not leaving stuff to chance.
What we talked about last time, a lot of things been our mindsets, just thoughts that we have to shift and change, adjust along the way. I think that planning is something that's very concrete. It's something that you can measure very easy. And
It's true.
again, we're just saying that you can't live your life, and you can't have a marriage really without having some planning going on. You can't just fly by the
right.
seat of your pants. That is unintentional, right?
That's very unintentional.
If
Yeah,
you're
that's
just
just
kinda
que sera, whatever. But
Floating through space.
yeah, when you live life that way, there's so many wasted opportunities.
Yeah.
So many wasted moments, I think, that we miss. Those wasted moments that would bring kind of that extraordinary, that excitement in our life when we're just kind of floating around. We just don't tend to anything. We just, we don't plan our maybe getaways. We don't plan kind words. I mean, I think you can plan affection, not that, we just become these little robot families. We're not saying that at all. But there should be some planning, some stewarding about your life, some stewardship. You talk about
Somebody
stewardship.
interrupts your schedule,
Oh.
or
and
if
you
your
just
schedule gets messed with a little bit.
can't take it. just fall
you
apart.
can't allow the interruption of your
Strip
plan
of gear.
to cause your marriage to go the opposite way, but
That's right.
or your family life to go in the wrong direction. But again, we are saying that, man, there ought to be plans in place, or to be intentional with planning things like prayer for each other. That that's something that's always happening, right?
Absolutely. The things that we value, though, I really think we have to look at it this way. The things you value, you plan for those. You make way for those. I mean, you can just use the example of, you get a new car and you don't want anybody eating in it, and you don't want a bunch of junk in there because you value that thing. You want it to stay smelling new. And then before long, you just kind of don't value it anymore. And so you don't really plan. We can eat in the car. We can.
And with that, again, we're just talking about with that planning is kind of tending to, right?
Yeah.
It's tending to, it's making sure you take care of, making sure. And again, you go back to a vehicle again. If your vehicle's going to run the way it's intended to run, or you hope it's intended to run that way. I hope you didn't buy a lemon. But again, with that, there's a plan that you have to have in place, and that plan should include an oil change.
Right.
Tires I often say, if you don't change the oil in your car, and one day it goes kaplunk on the side of the road, then it went kaplunk, not because the devil got mad at you and was attacking you.
Kaplunk.
Yeah, it went kaplunk because you did not plan on maintaining and tending to that vehicle. That's the reason it's not running.
So true.
It's like putting gas in. You better plan somewhere along the journey
to go by the gas station.
Put some gas in. If you don't,
plan to pay a lot too right now.
Stop. Yeah,
absolutely right.
But that's what we're talking about when we're talking about having a plan.
Right.
It's just making sure you're tending to the things that are needed and necessary.
Yeah,
for your marriage to be rich and full. You
stick to that plan. Whether you feel like it or not. It's kind of rainy outside today. I don't really feel like going by the gas station. Right. So I can just say, it's raining outside. I don't really feel like going by the gas station, and I don't go by the gas station, then I run out of gas. So there's some things that we do whether we feel like it or not. And, some of those things in a marriage relationship that we just need to be intentional about, are conversation, touching, kissing. Come on, husband, wife.
Yeah.
You like that?
Yeah.
Holding
Intimacy,
hands.
the whole intimate relationship. Right. There needs to be, again, there needs to be intentional.
In your life.
You need to plan that. That needs to be. And again, we're not talking about, look, I say it this way. If you don't have a plan, if you don't have a schedule, then where does the spontaneity come from? If everything has to be spontaneous and you can't have a plan, then where's spontaneity birthed out of, or what is spontaneity birthed out of? But again, we just believe that if you've got a plan, then there can be those moments where there's spontaneous, where there's spontaneity.
Yeah, you do break out of that plan a little bit.
Break out of that plan some. So we're just encouraging to find that man, there's always life is coming at you.
That's right. Let me throw something else out there that you need to plan for. Speaking really to couples, married couples, you need to plan for when your kids are grown up and gone. Yeah,
you're talking to us, our generation. Again, something we did, I think. Didn't always like the idea when they were younger.
Oh, true.
I think younger parents think, man, I can't stand the thought of my little baby's been out of my house. But
I know, that's true.
It's not all bad either.
No, it's not. Empty nest is not so bad. But what I'm saying with that, to have that extraordinary life, man, what is going to happen when your kids are grown up, when they've moved out, and it's just you and your spouse again? If you haven't planned, if there's been no intimacy, no companionship built into your relationship, then extraordinary is not going to be where you are when those kids move out. So
let's go on to the next one. Again, right? kind of a vague thing as far as being intentional, where the other's really measurable. This may be something that's not as easily measured.
Okay, here we go. Develop a selfless attitude.
So we can be intentional about that?
I think you absolutely can be intentional about that. The Bible instructs us in that selfless attitude as followers of Christ, that we prefer one another. We put others in front of ourselves.
And that is something that we have to bring into our relationship at home.
Absolutely.
that's something just family life, period. I think that the reason sometimes families struggle is because we are so intent on having self satisfied.
Having our own way.
And
That's
selflessness is something that has kind of escaped or left our society as a whole. And people are not easily.
We're selfish instead of selfless.
We can be very selfish, and we're kind of taught that way. That's kind of the MO of our world right now.
That's so true.
Whatever makes us happy, it doesn't matter what it does to anybody else.
That's true. We hear that a lot. And here's what Eric and I say a lot, especially a marriage relationship, but family as a whole, is a give.
Yep.
It's 100% on both sides, not 50-50 to make up 100, but we're both giving, everything that we can.
Yeah.
Just ridding ourselves of self.
Yeah. And
that's the life
and
we're
it's
called
easy
to.
for people to live with this give and take mindset. And again, and that can be very conditional, in marriage is 50-50. That is not what you're intended to live. You're intended to live, give 100.
That's right.
And with that, again, we have to realize that there are times that in my life that I have to be willing to be second and third.
On down the line.
And I just believe that it's our human nature. It doesn't take long to develop. As small children, you can see them being very selfish and always about themselves. And we hope that we don't live our marriages that way.
That's right.
Just always on the take.
Even with our kids, we need to begin now, as they're young, to let them know the whole world really doesn't revolve around you. When they're 2 and 3 and they're up in the middle of the floor and everybody's eyes are on them, it's kind of cute, I know. But, if we aren't intentional about curbing that, it's not going to be near as cute when they're 25 and they're expecting the whole world to stop because of them.
Yeah, it is adorable when the 2-year-old grandchild is out there.
Now it's different with grandkids. I wasn't talking about grandkids.
I didn't figure you were. But.
No, I wasn't. But that give, it just runs so in opposition to just our humanity.
Yeah,
it takes
Philippians 2, it tells us we have the mind, we're to have the attitude of Christ who
God help
gave
us.
himself. And before that, it talks about preferring others in front of ourselves. And we're just saying that, man, that is an intentional deal. That is something that we have to set our minds.
That's so true.
And we have to change our habits and our patterns of life. Talking about plans, we have to do that intentionally. And again, if you're a follower of Christ, that becomes your nature. You have the same nature he had.
Yeah.
That he was willing to give himself and to serve. He didn't come to be served. He came to serve others. And again, I think that's in us. It's just us responding
as his children. Yeah.
Responding to that.
That's right. Man, just we kind of started off in this whole little section about maybe talking about doing some things maybe that you haven't done before, doing some things you haven't done in a long time. Man, in your marriage relationship, let me just challenge you this week. Man, put yourself aside, put your spouse in front, and man, just a little thing. Bring them a glass of tea or a cup of water, a cup of coffee, whatever. Just put yourself, maybe on the back burner for a little bit. You're talking about an extraordinary relationship.
Yeah.
Man, that's born out of, just preferring the other.
And that is intentionality.
Yes, it is.
You will have to. I may not feel like it in the moment. I have to be intentional to do the thing that I know I should do anyway.
That's right, man. That attitude of Christ be born in us and, man, lived through us. Listen to this quote. Love it. One writer said, "Dying to self builds an environment of safety and life. When we die to self, we ultimately bring forth life in our marriage. It's the resurrection in action." Think about that for a second. When I die to myself, there's that death that happens. But in that, as I die to myself, man, I'm just bringing life into my relationship, into my family, by just putting myself back. Yeah.
And out of all of these, I think this is the last one on the intentional marriage or on this particular item list that we have.
Right.
And that is that we are intentional about giving constant pursuit to one another. And again, we're speaking primarily of the marriage relationship. Not that we can't give pursuit to other relationships, but if you want an extraordinary life, you've got to be intentional about the pursuit that is given to your spouse.
Pursuing them, pursuing love, pursuing intimacy, and what about romance? And maybe just going back and doing those first works again, the things that we did when when we were pursuing them, maybe in a dating relationship.
I hear guys especially say, I'm not the romantic guy. You were at one time. I guarantee you. I bet somewhere when you were dating or seeing each other to begin with, I bet that somewhere you were romantic.
And they spent some money, I bet.
Sure they did.
Spent
their time, their money.
Man, and we're not saying you got to spend a huge amount, but we're just saying that give that constant pursuit like you have before. Whether it's giving your time, whether it's investing with your money. Man, we say that a lot with the getaways and the retreats and stuff that we sponsor through HomeMatters. We just encourage people. It takes money to go. There's a registration, there's a hotel bill, but you are making an investment. You are giving pursuit, and it can be something big like that, but pursuit can be just that. Maybe at the house, I light a candle.
Yeah.
Light a candle in the bedroom that says, you're important to me. And I'm giving pursuit to our relationship.
I like the thought. And with that, again, there are other ways that we can give pursuit to one another. We want to make sure that our passions, we talked about that our passions are right and stay in the right direction, that they stay alive for one another. Because, again, I don't believe anybody out there got married. I don't believe that the day you got married, you just wanted ordinary. No. I just don't believe that.
Most young couples do premarital. They don't come in and just, all young couples think that they have the best. We're just so in love. Yeah. We're just so much alike, which that's funny too. But, they're just, the expectation is so fun, I think, in premarital counseling because they're so excited that they just can't wait. There's all kind of hope
and dreams.
Absolutely.
And a future. And I love that. And that's, listen, all we're saying is live toward that. Don't just get stuck in these ruts of being unintentional about your relationship, unintentional about your children, unintentional about other people that God has given you in your life.
That's so true.
But let's make sure that we're intentional about the relationship, number one, marriage, but other relationships. So we're intentional about them. We don't just leave them to chance.
Right.
Like we said earlier. Read this last quote here.
Love this quote. You can find the book is Beyond Ordinary. Shout out to Justin Davis with this. But
I love this.
This is a great quote. Listen, the greatest enemy to your marriage isn't infidelity. The greatest enemy is ordinary.
Wow.
Yeah, listen. Ordinary marriages lose hope. That's what Eric was just talking about. Right. They come in with hope. But ordinary marriages lose that hope. Ordinary marriages lack vision. Ordinary marriages give in to compromise. Ordinary is the belief that this is as good as it'll ever get. And don't couples get stuck there so often? Listen to this. He says, Lord. And when we begin to settle for ordinary, it's easy to move from I do, when we were so excited, to I'm done. Man,
great quote.
And you're like, what? That can happen.
Yeah, it can.
That can happen quicker than we can even realize when we just settle into the ordinary, to the mundane, to the routine. We just challenge you.
So if you want the extraordinary, you don't want to settle in ordinary.
That's right.
We're just saying,
go for extraordinary.
Make sure you give the time to be intentional about your relationship, about your marriage, other relationships. Be intentional with it. and you'll have the extraordinary that God intended for you.
That's right.
Amen.
That's good. Yeah. Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, tell your friends and family
right.
about
Share
Home
the
Matters,
podcast.
the podcast, HomeMatters.family. Again, other things that are going
Resources
on around that.
there. Yep.
The getaways and all that, you can find out more about those.
That's right. We'd love for you to go with us.
Yep.
Hey, don't settle for ordinary. God's got much better for you.
Yeah.
God bless you.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.